Hey, everybody, it's Rob Scheer, the founder of Comfort Cases, and I am so excited that we have been chosen for the Target Circle Nonprofit Partner Program. Now, this is how it works. If you are in Jacksonville, Florida, if you're in Sarasota or Fort Myers, if you're in Tampa, by the way, I was just in Tampa giving a talk. If you are in Long Island, New York, hey, my friends at Briggs and Riley, you're located there. Spread the word. And also Eastern Texas. You have the opportunity to go in and vote for Comfort Cases. That's exactly right. Vote. You can vote more than once. We really need the votes. The votes are actually ending on September the 30th. So we have lots of time. You're going to get lots of videos from me. But please do me a favor. Go in and vote for Comfort Cases. We really could use the support for Target. And the only way that's going to happen is with all of you. You've done this before. Remember back in the day at DSW where we were awarded $75,000 because of the amazing votes that you all did. Well, we need your votes again. So please go to comfortcases.org. You can get all the information right there on our homepage. And once again, thank you for all the love and support. Hey, everybody, it's Rob Scheer, the founder of Comfort Cases, and we are still doing the best of. It is so hard to believe that we are actually halfway through the month of August. This summer has just flown by. We are getting ready to start taping for season 5. I keep reminding everybody that it might be my last season, but, I've been listening to the best of, and it's just like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm going to do this one more year. My next best of, I am so lucky that I get to call her my friend. April Dinwoodie, she has actually been on the show before. She is the executive director of Transracial Journeys, which, by the way, as a father of 4 kids of color, she has helped me in so many ways. Also, you definitely need to check out her podcast. Her podcast is Born in June, Raised in April, What Adoption Can Teach the World. And by the way, we need to teach the world a lot. So I hope you enjoyed this best of as much as I did. And by the way, I know on season 5, I'm going to have April back because her and I just have some amazing conversations. So everyone enjoy. It is hard to believe that we are actually coming towards the end of National Foster Care Awareness Month. For me and for my next guest, foster care is something that we think about on a daily basis. It's not just one month for us. If you as the public want to shout a month out, every time I turn around, you're given a day to chocolate and a day to this and stuff, and you want to give us a month, that's fine. But for us, it's our life, and it's what we breathe, it's what we eat, it's what we sleep, it's what we try to do to make sure that we educate our public about truly what's going on within our system. I am so lucky to call our next guest my friend. From the moment I met her, I knew that we would be friends for life. Whether we haven't spoken in months or whether we see each other, we are friends. So without further ado, April, welcome to Fostering Change again.
Thank you. It's a joy to be here. And yes, lifelong connections have been made.
Yes. So April, the month is coming to an end. Once again, you and I have been through this so many times. Everybody, every news clip wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to talk about it. But as well as I do, come June 1st, it's all of a sudden, it's like lights out. Yeah. Do you see that as well?
I do. I think it's a delicate balance because while we want to have more light shining on key issues with the months that honor whatever it may be, mental health, foster care, adoption, we know that these things happen all year. So I welcome a brighter light being shined during a month, but I do struggle when that month ends. How long is that energy going to last? And what else do we do to make sure that it's not just a one and done, that there's this constant effort paid for the youth in care today?
Yeah, no, I agree with you so much. And the fact is I've been keeping this a secret, and I want to tell you this, and I've been waiting to talk to you about this. But the last time that you and I were together and we were on Fostering Change, you really said so many things that opened my mind. And as a father who is raising, 4 kids of color, and now having my 5th child, and knowing about how you've talked about, people's life books and about how it
I went home and I talked to Reese, and we actually reached out to our two of our kids' birth mother, and to a point where now we talk regularly. And now they've come to our house and spent the night with her and my other kids' siblings. Now we have hit amusement parks together. And that, I just have to tell you, that would have never happened if you had not walked into my life. And so I just want to say thank you. My daughter, my son, it's just been this incredible journey.
Yeah. Well, these months that intersect too, these moments, it's foster care month, it's also Mother's Day, and as you think about these extended family relationships that we want to honor, we want to build on behalf of children, it's important to lean into them, to figure out the ebbs and flows, to not take things too personally, to hopefully make way for what can be a full-on family
Right.
extension through the families that your children are born to and are separated from. It's just such an important piece of this work. And when you think about the bigger elements that are at play, it is somewhat overwhelming. But when you boil it down to its simple list form, it is about relationships. It's about honoring the truth, and it's about recognizing the factors that get in the way of that high level of care for
Yeah.
children.
And I also think that it has a lot to do with forgiveness, and for me, it was that moment, of the forgiveness part of it and then moving on. And I think a lot of times what happens is, especially adopted parents, we get very insecure if we think about all of a sudden, what do you mean my child's got, these other, birth parents who, am I going to get less love and I will have to tell you, I doubled up on my therapy. I did. I doubled up on my therapy, but I got through it, and so did my husband, and so did our other kids. And what I saw a more confident daughter. And by the way, it all happened during that Mother's Day moment for us because that was so important. Because Mother's Day, at the end of the day, my kids have two dads, but they have birth mothers and they have birth siblings, by the way. And I think it's very, very important that we as adoptive parents, we support that. Do you feel that because I know your story and our listeners, guys, you can always visit, juneandapril.com and hear April's story. But do you feel that, you've had that support as well?
No, not exactly. I mean, I feel like my story is slightly, all of our stories and our experiences are different and nuanced, but they all also sometimes tether to these bigger concepts. It was like I was completely detached from my family of origin, and there was no interest in or exploration of those people that were part of me. And I did it on my own. I did it myself. My parents didn't hold me back from that. They didn't walk with me. And for me, I often think that what you just described is a way that parents have to lead the way. We think about this big relationship work, and I've never known another circumstance where a child or a youth or a young person, especially those that have had challenges that enter into their world early, are asked to do this complicated relationship work. There's not another situation where we sort of say, oh, do you want to see your birth mother? Do you want, oh, just go ahead and do that on your own. We can't let children lead that way. We as grown-ups have to lead the way. We absolutely have to do that and model what it looks like to have healthy barriers and boundaries and also an expansive heart of love. So if grown-ups aren't doing that for children and youth, it's not if, it's when it's going to get highly complicated for that young person that you love. And, buckle up.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I think that, as an adopted parent, it's a failure for me if I'm not the one leading the way. Reese and I are not the one leading the way and holding their hand along the way. I'll never forget when my one of my children located their birth father and really wanted that relationship. And I'd been their dad since they were knee high to a grasshopper. And so, but what we said was, listen, we are here for you. We supported it. We got together. It turned out not to go the way that my child thought it was going to go. And it was heartbreaking for me because, to see my child cry and to, because it was this whole, it's going to be this great person who's going to love me and who's going to, instead, it was a lot of opposite of that. And, I think that we have to prepare for the good and for the bad.
Well, you're making a solid point in life. I mean, first of all, it's the both and of life. Second of all, we know, given what we have studied about adoption and foster care and family separation, that there will be additional challenges with these important relationships because of the trauma, the grief, the loss that everybody comes to the table with. There will be times when everybody's all in and holding hands and having a great time. And there'll be times when the pain and the separation and the trauma is just too much that either a family of origin, a parent of origin can't engage. Also mental health issues, also substance, also all the things that are often part of family separation have to be factors that we think about, all in service of a healthy identity development of the child and the youth. So we can't paint this rosy picture. We can't completely disengage. We can't control everything. But as grownups and as parents who are invested in showing that it is both and they can indeed love two parents at the same time, and two sets of parents, and one that doesn't live with you and one that does. I've seen it work. You've seen, divorce and remarriage. You've seen people who are loved like family. There are examples of the way that these relationships can work in other ways. We just somehow get it all twisted up in adoption and foster care. And it need not be. It need not be, because we can do things that are difficult and make relationships when we have a North Star of keeping that child healthy and whole.
Yeah. April, I get a lot of backlash because one of the things that I always say is that I don't believe that foster care is the answer. I truly believe, when we look at statistics of 64% of kids who come into the system is because of the word neglect. And I feel that that is no more than poverty. That by bringing children into a shattered system, we are creating even more trauma than the trauma that they are experiencing within the home. And I've always tried to wonder why that we take these kids and we're going to save them, and we put them with strangers. We pay a stranger. But why as a society that we've already seen that this doesn't work, this isn't healthy for the child, why can't we give these families a lift up and maybe bring somebody into the home to stabilize the home? Maybe, the mom needs a break. Maybe, she just needs that encouragement to say, you can do this. Or maybe they need help with daycare. I just read a story just recently where a mother had her kids taken away because she left her 12-year-old, she left her 5-year-old with her 12-year-old because she had to go to work and she couldn't afford daycare, and that was neglect. Look what we do.
It's so troubling, but also very clear to me. This country was created, it's like rugged individualism, right? Me and mine, right? There are indigenous communities, there are communities that are created or have been created since the dawn of time that just collectively take care of themselves, right? There's community built within certain cultures where everybody takes care of each other. Everybody is the child or the auntie or the uncle or the parent of another. And it's those things that we've disrupted as a country. When you go right back to we've disrupted that flow of taking care at the level that is really integrated, and have created a whole nother system that is now trying to catch up back to that, which the ironic thing is, I do see signals in the bigger structures of saying, oh, wow, look, Indigenous communities actually know how to take care of each other. We've disrupted that. How do we come back to it? It's a real struggle of not having created the systems of capitalism, not having creating the systems that this country was founded on, and having to live and navigate through it. So you are absolutely right. Don't disrupt children. Take the parents out, give them the help they need, bring in the services, that wraparound idea, that idea of you bring people in versus take them out, especially creating that fixed place for a young person. It's not conceptually out of the realm of possibility to think of it. It's difficult and costly to think about how you actually execute on that. But the ideas are right there, and you said it straight away, that the system doesn't take into account some of what we already know how to do as human beings. And if I'll tell you, if Indigenous communities, and I've seen lots of examples in any way Indigenous comes to be, or how anyone would define that, there's a system and a model in place that we would be, as a whole, very better for if we were leaning into that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I know that we need a system, because I know that there are kids who I have two of my kids who were severely abused, and that is that's just not acceptable. But I also have two kids who should have never been put in the system. I think that, and even though, by the way, I am beyond honored to be their father, and it's the most precious gift in the world. But the more I get to know their life story, because, by the way, when you're an adoptive parent out of foster care, they do not tell you everything. The reports that they write in is not always the exact what it is. And the more that we've dug into this journey that you helped open the door for, the more I've realized that, my gosh, this is just not acceptable, and that's painful for an adoptive parent to say that.
Well, talk about forgiveness. You mentioned that earlier. And because we didn't create the system of capitalism, racism, all the things that fuel some of the hard parts of foster care and adoption and family structure in this country, we have to, on some level, one, they have to recognize that these systems exist and they can't be, fundamentally opposed to the reality that has impacted their ability to parent. Number one. Number two, when the lights go on sometimes for folks, they realize that systems have impacted their ability to parent and that they're not always right, or there's issues with them, and they feel extremely guilty and ashamed. And that activates them so much that I always pull them back and say, look, you didn't create the system. You didn't create this. You are a part of it now. Your lights are turned on. Let's go get the therapy, act on forgiveness of yourself so that you don't become so chaotic in your whole holding of this that you're not operating at your highest level. I've had story after story of moms and dads and caretakers like feeling this heavy weight of guilt, and then things get worse for them and their child. I'm like, no, you can realize some hard things, and then you can find a way through it, right, and not perpetuate these ills of a system that is meant to caretake children and families. So it's really, really hard. It's another level of being human. It's right. Another level of understanding systems. It's another level of working on relationships that I don't know anything else that's harder. Not to, it's not a badge. It's just true.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Since, we've spoken, my husband and I, we have adopted our fifth child, and we adopted a young boy at the age of 18. He had been in the system, on and off, on and off, on and off. In 18, he was, with his foster parents and was going to age out. And I met him, we fell in love with him. And my husband and I, after months and months, my kids were like, that's their brother. And so he's now a sophomore in college. But the reason I bring this up is because I never ever, it wasn't that we were like adopting him. It was like, here's your forever family. You can, and he actually came to us and said, mind you, he was 20, and he said, would you adopt me? And I was like, you're 20 years old. And he was like, I just want the same last name as my brothers and my sister. You have that type of feeling too, where kids want that belonging. They want to feel that belonging.
1000%. It speaks so much to so many things, but we know what we want and what we need as human beings, and even at early stages of our life. And when someone is coming to a potential parent or a longer term relationship and saying, hey, I want this, it's really powerful. And also, like the both and of everything, it's also so why until 20? Why did this have to wait till 20?
Right.
You know, why? I mean, I do a lot of work at schools, and I'll talk about the different kinds of adoption. I'll say, does anybody know what adult adoption is? Adult adoption is, and there's so many hands that go up. And is it something when you get adopted? Is it adult? Yes. But what does that mean? And these young people are like, wait, whoa, 18, and they haven't had a
Yeah.
family life like I had. It's such a hard concept for young people to understand, because everybody ought to have a family that is enfolding them. And when it didn't happen, the young people I've been around who don't know this are just so confused that could even happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And let me tell you something. I really, doing an adult adoption was something I never thought about. And, but, it has amazed me just to see how a piece of paper, has truly built a confidence level. And, let me tell you, April, we have a lot of more work to do. We have a lot of work to do. And we have so much that still needs to be done. But do you feel like the needle is moving at all?
Yes, I do. I resisted being involved in any kind of bigger system change projects. I was part of the Donaldson Adoption Institute. I ran that for a while. So the research and the policy piece was fine, but really engaging with projects that were from the Children's Bureau, I resisted it because I wasn't sure if I could, if I really, but then I thought, if not me, then who? If I want change in a system. So to that end, there have been several projects that I've been a part of, and one that I'm a part of right now called the Quality Improvement Center on Engaging Children and Youth. And that is the QICEY. It's a multi-year project. And that, to me, and the approach that's been taken there and the work that's being done, there are pilot sites now, they're looking at like redefining what youth engagement is. I see those types of things as closing the gap a bit. And so, yeah, I do feel I'm always hopeful. I have to be, or else I wouldn't be able to get out of bed in the mornings. So I'm always hopeful. And I do see some signals that things are happening. And mostly it's because people like you, people like me, the most importantly, the youth of today that have their voice and that their voices are lifted up and people are listening to them and understanding more. I'm going to remain hopeful and pray that these changes that you and I both know need to be made can happen.
Wow. Well, listen up, everybody. She said it. It's hope. It's hope. And the fact is we can never give up hope. April, I will tell you, having conversations with you stimulates me every single time. And we can't wait a year to do this. I'd love for us to touch base again in about 6 months, and let's see how much more that needle has, because I truly do believe that when you educate your community of a problem, okay, and by the way, foster care is a problem. It's a pandemic. And then when you educate them, they truly will step up and we can all see the change. Listen, everybody, please visit my friend juneandapril.com. This is the reason I do this podcast. I say it quite often, maybe this is it, but you know what? It's not it. Because these are the type of stories and talks and conversations we all should be having. We all should be having for change. April, thank you, my dear friend. I love you so much. And thank you for always being so supportive of our podcast and our community. And until next time, everybody, continue to be a good human. Take care. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for listening or watching the latest episode of Fostering Change. All of us on our team hope that you've learned something new today and have been inspired to be a good human. Now, just a reminder that you can always find Fostering Change on your favorite channels on Google, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and others, including, of course, comfortcases.org. I want to give a big thank you to all of you for joining us each and every week. And a reminder that if you have a suggestion for a guest, or maybe you might have a question about today's podcast, or are interested in becoming a sponsor of Fostering Change, please don't hesitate to email me personally at fosteringchange@comfortcases.org. Now, that's it for now. Thanks again, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Take care.